We have photographed the surface of Mars at about 30 centimeters per pixel. We have landed a probe on a comet moving at 135,000 kilometers an hour. We have satellite coverage of every square meter of the Amazon, refreshed in some places every single day. There are still large parts of that forest where no scientist has ever stood. Not places we failed to look at. Places we have looked at from orbit in high resolution for 50 years and still cannot walk into. Most people assume the reason is danger. Jaguars, anacondas, something in the water with teeth. The real answer is less dramatic and far more permanent, and once you see it, you will understand why the last true blank space on Earth is not under the ocean or the ice. It sits at sea level, in warm air, at the end of a road you could drive to tomorrow. To see the problem, you have to start with a number almost nobody gets right. The Amazon rainforest covers roughly 5.5 million square kilometers across 9 countries. That is larger than India and Mexico put together. Now the part that matters. Almost everything humans have ever built in there sits on water. Towns, ports, mission stations, research posts, logging camps, gold operations. Look at a settlement map of the Amazon, and you are looking at a map of its rivers. The basin has something on the order of 1,100 tributaries, and for 400 years, those rivers have done the job that roads do everywhere else. They move fuel, food, timber, and medicine. They are the only reason anyone lives out there at all. So human presence in the Amazon is not a coverage. It is a film, a thin coating along the waterways, a few kilometers deep, and beyond that, nothing. Not empty, just no infrastructure, no road, no cut trail, no cache, no fuel drum, no airstrip, no marked path made by anyone in living memory. In parts of central Amazonia, the nearest road is several hundred kilometers away in every direction, and the nearest building is a wooden research post you can only reach by boat in the right season. So you do what modern humans always do with a logistics problem. You bring technology. In the Amazon, technology has a very specific and very unpleasant habit. The Amazon canopy is not a roof. It is a stack of roofs, an understory, a main layer at 30 to 45 meters, and emergent trees pushing above everything else to 60 meters and beyond. Together, they intercept so much light that only about 1 to 2% of the sunlight hitting the top of the forest reaches the ground. Start there, because that single fact kills your power supply. A solar panel on the forest floor in the Amazon is not an underperforming solar panel. It is a decoration. Now navigation. GPS works by timing signals from satellites that need a clean line of sight. Wet leaves absorb those signals. Trunks and branches reflect them. So what finally reaches you has bounced off 3 things and arrived late. Your receiver does the math faithfully and hands you a position wrong by tens of meters, or refuses to give you one at all. Radio has the same enemy. VHF wants line of sight. A satellite phone wants sky. Under 45 meters of soaking wet biomass, you have neither. And the standard workaround is grim. Stop. Find a gap. Wait. and hope. Drones do not save you. Fly above the canopy and you photograph a green ceiling you already have from satellites. Fly below it and you are in a room full of obstacles with no GPS, no reliable video link, nowhere to land, and 30 minutes of battery. Every instrument we ever built to make wilderness legible makes one assumption: a clear view of the sky. The Amazon's defining feature is that it does not have one. And the ground under that ceiling will not hold still either. Rivers in the Amazon do not have banks the way you are imagining. They have a season. Across the basin, water levels rise and fall by an average of 4 to 15 meters every single year. At Manaus, the swing is around 10 meters. Between the Middle Madeira and the Middle Jurua, it runs 10 to 15. In the Andean headwaters, a single day of rain can shift the water 4 to 9 meters. Translate that. Forest floor you surveyed in September can be under 8 meters of water in April. A 3-story building of water standing in the trees. And it is not a lake, it is flooded forest. The trunks are still there. So are the vines, the buttress roots, the submerged deadfall. Which produces the most maddening condition in the entire basin. Too deep to walk, too dense to boat. You cannot wade it because it is over your head and full of things that trap a leg. You cannot motor through it because an outboard prop lasts about 4 seconds in submerged deadfall. You cannot go around it because around may be 60 kilometers of the same thing. A map of the deep Amazon has an expiration date measured in months. Which brings us to what actually stops expeditions out there. It is not what you have been picturing. Ask anyone who has worked deep in the Amazon what nearly killed them, and they will not say jaguar. Jaguars avoid people, and fatal attacks in the wild are rare enough to make international news. Anacondas have no interest in something adult-sized. Venomous snakes are a real risk, but a treatable one, and a bite requires you to step on something. The things that end expeditions are small enough that you often do not see them arrive. Mosquitoes carry malaria, and the Amazon region accounts for the overwhelming majority of malaria cases in Brazil. Plasmodium vivax relapses months later, out of your liver, after you are home and think you got away with it. Sandflies carry leishmaniasis, which opens ulcers that will not close. Botfly larvae develop under your skin. Ticks and biting flies work on you continuously, and every bite is a break in the skin. That last part is the actual mechanism. Relative humidity in the deep forest sits between 80 and 100% and effectively never drops. Nothing dries. Not your socks, not your shirt, not the inside of your boots. A blister on day 3 is an open wound by day 6 and infected by day 9. And soldiers have had a name for what comes next since the Pacific campaigns. Jungle rot. Skin that stops behaving like a barrier. The same humidity works on your equipment. Fungus grows on the inside of camera lenses. Contacts corrode, zippers seize, notebooks turn to pulp, batteries die young. Nobody in the Amazon is beaten in one dramatic moment. They are beaten 1 percentage point at a time until the expedition is a group of exhausted sick people carrying broken gear. Fine, you say, then stop sending people. Send machines. Bring a vehicle. Much of the basin is alluvial clay, and in the wet season it behaves less like ground and more like a fluid. Trucks sink to the axle. Winching out needs an anchor, and your anchor is a tree that may be hollow, rotten, spined, or occupied by an ant colony that will make you regret the decision within 15 seconds. Bring a chainsaw. Amazonian hardwoods like IPE and Masaranduba are among the densest commercial timbers on Earth. They blunt chains fast, and every hour of cutting is fuel and files you carried in on your back. Bring anything with an engine. Sustained heat, above 30 degrees Celsius, at near total humidity attacks, cooling systems, electrical contacts, hydraulic seals, and every circuit board you own, and every machine that goes in has to come out or be abandoned. Most are abandoned. If that sounds like an exaggeration, there is an 870-kilometer piece of evidence. BR 319 is a federal highway built to connect Manaus to Porto Velho. Construction started in 1968. The road was completed in 1973 and formally inaugurated in 1976. By 1986, it was impassable. By 1988, it was effectively unusable, and a national highway had reverted to bush. Brazil did not lose that road to a war or an earthquake. It lost it to rain and to plants in about 12 years. And that is what almost everyone underestimates. The forest does not merely resist you, it edits you out. Cut a trail through primary forest and you have done something specific. You have made a hole in the canopy and let light onto ground that has not seen it in decades. The forest has been waiting for exactly that. Pioneer species are built for light gaps. Cecropia, balsa, heliconia, vines. In a fresh gap, growth is measured in centimeters per week. Within a month, your trail is furred over. Within a season, it is a wall. Within 2 years, there is no reliable evidence anyone was ever there. This is why the obvious solution fails. Every serious proposal for exploring the deep interior comes down to the same idea. Build a supply line. Establish depots. Push the frontier forward from a chain of camps. You cannot, because a supply line in the Amazon is not something you build. It is something you continuously defend. Cut it once and it closes. Keep it open and you need a permanent crew doing nothing but cutting, resupplied by another line that also needs a crew. And very quickly, the logistics tail is larger than the expedition it exists to support. In a desert, the track you made last year is still there. In the Arctic, the cache you buried is still there. In the Amazon, both are gone, and the forest has no memory of you at all. Now put a human being inside that. You cannot see a horizon, not once, not for weeks. Visibility in dense understory is often 20 to 30 meters. There is no ridge to steer toward, no distant peak, no skyline, no coast. Every direction looks like every other direction, and the few landmarks that exist, a big buttressed tree, a fallen giant, a stream crossing, look exactly like 400 other big buttressed trees, fallen giants, and stream crossings. Sound offers no rescue either. Insects and frogs generate a wall of noise loud enough that you cannot hear a person shouting 50 meters away, and you lose the ability to judge distance by sound entirely. Light under the canopy is flat and dim from mid-morning to mid-afternoon, then collapses into darkness in about 20 minutes. The effect on experienced navigators is well documented, and it is not panic, it is doubt. You stop trusting your compass. You second-guess a bearing you took correctly. Fatigue converts directly into mistakes, and mistakes in that environment become injuries. The Amazon does not disorient you by being confusing. It disorients you by being identical. And that sets up the single point on which every deep expedition actually turns. Someone breaks a femur 80 kilometers from the nearest river landing. What happens? A helicopter cannot see you. Under 40 meters of canopy, you are invisible from the air, and even with a precise coordinate, the pilot is looking at unbroken green. It cannot land because there is nowhere to land. Cutting a landing zone wide enough for rotors in that timber, with hand tools, takes a day at minimum, and the aircraft cannot loiter overhead while you do it. Hoisting is possible for some machines, but the cable has to clear the canopy, the downwash tears through the gap you made, and the aircraft has a fuel radius measured from an airstrip that may be 300 kilometers away. So you carry. A stretcher team cutting its own path makes 1 to 2 kilometers an hour on good ground. Add a 90-kilogram patient, rotating carriers, root-tangled terrain, and stream crossings, and a realistic figure is about 5 kilometers a day. 80 kilometers becomes 16 days. A compound fracture does not wait 16 days. Neither does appendicitis, a snake bite, or a bad infection. That arithmetic has a shape, and it explains every single thing you have heard so far. But before I show it to you, I want to tell you about a man who understood the Amazon better than almost anyone alive and ignored it anyway. Percy Fawcett was not a tourist and not a romantic. I was a British artillery officer turned surveyor who spent close to 20 years running boundary surveys through Bolivia and Brazil for the Royal Geographical Society, in exactly this terrain, with 1920s equipment. He had more real jungle survey experience than almost any European alive. Over those years, he became convinced that the interior of Mato Grosso held the ruins of a large, organized, ancient settlement. In his notes, he called it Zed. On April 20th, 1925, he left Cuiabá to find it. The party was small on purpose. Fawcett, his eldest son Jack, and Jack's friend, Raleigh Rymel, supported at the start by 2 Brazilian laborers, 2 horses, 8 mules, and 2 dogs. He sent the support back. On May 29, 1925, a letter left his camp in the hands of a runner. It was written from a place called his wife. He was moving into unexplored country with only Jack and Rymel. That is the last anyone ever heard from him. By most accounts, Rymel was already in trouble, struggling with an infected leg, and Fawcett had considered sending him back. He did not. A century of expeditions have gone in after those 3 men. None has come out with a body, a grave, or an answer anyone can defend. And here is the detail that matters, because it is the whole lesson. Fawcett chose a party of 3 deliberately. He believed a small group could move faster, live off less, and be read as harmless, rather than as an invading column. For going in, he was completely right. For coming out, 3 was the wrong number. 3 people cannot carry 1 injured person. There is no rotation, no rest, no redundancy. The moment one of them could no longer walk, the expedition had no mechanism for retrieving him, and no mechanism for retrieving itself. Fawcett was not defeated by a monster, or a curse, or a hostile tribe. I was defeated by a number. Everything in this video is not a list of obstacles. It is one equation. Whatever distance you travel inward, you must travel outward. And in the Amazon, the outbound trip is always the worst one. You are weaker than when you started. Your food is gone, and you cannot reliably forage a calorie surplus for a working team in primary rainforest. Whatever the survival shows suggest, your boots have failed, your skin is compromised, your electronics are dying. The trail you cut on the way in has closed behind you. The ground you crossed dry may now be underwater. And if a single person is injured, your speed drops by a factor of 5 or more. So the limit on Amazon exploration was never how far a human being can walk. It is how far a human being can walk and still be brought back. Call it the return radius, the maximum distance from navigable water at which a team can still be pulled out alive if things go wrong. With no roads, no air rescue, no supply line, and no clock on your side, that radius is small. It is measured in days from a river, not weeks. Which is exactly what the map of Amazon science looks like when you plot it. A dense network of corridors along the rivers, short spurs pushing inward, and between those corridors, at basin scale, spaces the size of countries. We have not failed to explore the deep Amazon for lack of nerve, or money, or ambition. We have failed because the round trip does not close. There is an obvious objection here, and it is a good one, because in the last few years, we have absolutely been finding things in there. In January of 2024, a team led by the archaeologist Stephen Rostain published a survey of the Upano Valley in the Ecuadorian Amazon. The tool was airborne Lidar. A plane flies a grid and fires laser pulses downward, hundreds of thousands per second. Most hit leaves. A small fraction slip through gaps, hit soil, and come back. Filter out every return that touched vegetation, and you are left with bare earth terrain, as if the forest had been lifted off. What came back was a city network, more than 6,000 earthen platforms inside a surveyed area of roughly 600 square kilometers, each one around 20 meters by 10. linked by wide, straight roads with built curbs, occupied for close to 1,000 years, starting about 25 centuries ago. Rostaine had been excavating that region for more than 2 decades. He knew the mounds were there. What 20 years of walking could not give him was the shape of the whole thing. The aircraft delivered it in a handful of flights. 2 years earlier, in 2022, a German-led team published Lidar from the Llanos de Mojos in the Bolivian Amazon, showing settlements with monumental platform mounds, raised causeways and canals, low-density urbanism, undercover, invisible from the ground. So the problem is solved? No, and this distinction is the most important one in the entire subject. Lidar gives us sight. It does not give us access. A Lidar map hands you a coordinate. It does not hand you a route, a river landing, a campsite, a way to move 200 kilograms of excavation equipment, a way to feed a crew for 6 weeks, or a way to get a sick colleague out. The instant a human being has to stand on that spot with a trowel, every constraint in this video applies again, unchanged. And there is one more thing in those scans worth sitting with. Fawcett was right. Planned, permanent settlements in the Amazonian interior, built by people who solved the logistics problem so completely that they lived there for centuries. The forest that swallowed him is the same forest that kept their cities hidden for 1,000 years. He had the correct hypothesis and the wrong return radius. Here is the part that is hard to sit with. The one thing we can do at scale in the deep Amazon is destroy it. Nobody can march a research team 200 kilometers into the interior and keep them supplied through a wet season. But a logging road punched off an existing highway advances by kilometers per week. An illegal gold operation flies in a helicopter, drops a pump and a hose, and turns a stretch of clear river into a mercury-contaminated pit in a single season. A fire set at a degraded edge in a dry year needs no logistics at all. It runs on its own. The forest that defeats exploration does not defeat extraction, and the reason is the equation. Extraction has no return radius because it has no intention of returning. It is not trying to close a loop, sustain a camp, or bring anyone back alive. It goes one way, takes what it came for, and leaves the problem behind. That is how the Amazon can be unexplored and under siege at the same time. Those are not contradictions. They are the same physics, running in opposite directions. And there is a second reason. The deep interior stays closed that has nothing to do with mud or mosquitoes. Since 1987, Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Agency, FUNAI, has operated a formal policy of no contact. Rather than seeking out isolated peoples, it locates them at a distance, demarcates their territory, and staffs protection posts on the approaches to keep others out. Brazil is believed to hold more than 100 isolated groups, the largest concentration anywhere on Earth, with the densest cluster in the Javari Valley on the Peruvian border. The reasoning is medical before it is philosophical. A population with no history of exposure to measles, influenza, or whooping cough can lose an enormous share of its people from a single contact event, and this has happened repeatedly, on record, within living memory. The most dangerous thing an outsider can carry into that forest is not a weapon. It is a cough. So some of the deep Amazon is not unmapped because we tried and failed. It is unmapped because entering is illegal, and because the people who live there have already answered the question of whether they would like visitors. Out there cannot and should not turn out to be the same line on the same map. Working scientists gave up on conquering the interior a long time ago, and what they do instead is quieter and much smarter. They use the rivers as highways, exactly as people have for 400 years, because a boat carries fuel, food, a generator, a sample freezer, and if it comes to it, a patient. They build permanent stations on the banks, so the return radius starts from a bed and a radio instead of from a tent. They cut transects, a fixed line into the forest, a few kilometers long, surveyed once and revisited for decades. A single 1-hectare plot, measured every 5 years for 40 years, produces more usable science than any heroic march ever has. They put instruments above the canopy instead of under it. The Amazon Tall Tower Observatory, north of Manaus, stands 325 meters tall for exactly this reason, sampling the air the forest breathes out, continuously, without anyone walking anywhere. They leave camera traps and acoustic recorders behind and come back for the memory cards months later, letting the equipment do the waiting. And they fly Lidar and let the aircraft do the walking. Almost everything we know about the deep Amazon, we know from the edges, from the air, and from a small number of very carefully chosen lines. We talk about the map as though it were finished. It is not. There is a place on this planet at sea level, with breathable air and drinkable water, 4 hours by plane from a major city that we have imaged in extraordinary detail and still cannot enter on our own terms. Not because it is hostile, because the arithmetic of getting back out has never balanced. The deep Amazon is not blank because nobody looked. It is blank because looking and returning are two entirely different problems, and in 500 years we have only ever solved the first one. We didn't run out of places to go. We ran out of ways to come back. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching, and thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. If there is another extreme place you want me to pull apart like this, a desert, a trench, an ice sheet, a mountain nobody can climb, or honestly, any topic you have been curious about, put it in the comments. I read them, and I am always hunting for the next idea. And if you are not done yet, there is another video, just like this one, waiting on your screen right now. Go ahead and start it.